Hey, thank you so much for all of the birthday wishes. I really appreciate it. If you haven't noticed lately, I know I've had some lessons that I've been sharing, and the truth is, I have a lot more, and I'm hopeful to be able to share them with you as time goes on. And those lessons I'm working on being a little more short and concise, keeping them to like 2 to 3 minutes, despite what they've been recently. But today, on my birthday, I want to get a little deeper and I want to reflect on the old me and what kind of brought me to today. Because the old me, he wasn't doing well, not doing well for a really long time. Despite how you may have seen me on the surface, I was not okay, not since ninth grade. I remember in eighth grade being the most carefree and excited, confident kid. And then in ninth grade, when the hazing first started, I very quickly became a shell of myself. Because of that, I was someone who wanted to kill myself when I was 17, and then again when I was 25, and then again when I was 30, and then again during the pandemic. See, when I was in high school, I was bullied and hazed, not just in ninth grade, but also in 10th and 11th, and even in a senior year, both physically and emotionally. And it changed me. It was when I learned that wherever I went and whatever I did, it was never okay to be me. Being me got me yelled at. Being me got me hit. Being me meant not being good enough. And the truth is, despite how you may have seen me, you never knew what was going on in my head. If you know me well enough that you know that I've always overanalyzed everything, whether it's strategies on the field, coaching strategies, teaching strategies, and of course, analyzing my social interactions. There were so many times where I came home from a night out where it was supposed to be fun, and then I broke down everything in my head that I had screwed up that night. Shouldn't have made that comment. Shouldn't have been so competitive. Why did I try to talk to that person? Why was I on my phone so much? I was just repeating comments that I had heard from others, some by people just trying to control me, but others came from love. And I know that they were just saying it out of love because they were just looking out for me. When the pandemic hit, I was forced into a situation that I had feared my entire life, being completely and totally alone. It was then what I would label as my rock bottom, where I started to pick myself up. Took me to finally admit that I hated myself. And if I didn't love myself, how could I expect someone else to love me? And then that was going to fix my problem. I mean, if I don't love me, why should anyone else? And it's during that time that I started to ask myself a lot of questions like this. I started to question why I feared so much about being alone. And the pandemic really helped me realize that. I hated being alone because I was so mean. It was like every negative comment that had ever been said my entire life was on repeat in my head. And way worse than things that people had ever said to me out loud. It was like sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me was a whole bunch of horse crap because words hurt me badly. I knew I needed help, and I finally found a therapist, one that right from the start, I said that I do not want to sit here and vent. I need direction, and she gave it. She directed me towards reading a book about attachment styles. It made me realize how ridiculously anxious that I was. And it made so much sense as to why I had self-sabotaged so many of my relationships. I started to catch myself every single time I used the phrase, I need. Do I really need it? Or is this something that I can survive without? I remember a lot of times thinking, what would I do if every person that I knew, every family member, every friend, everyone was totally gone? A scenario that I would never even let my head wrap around. But once I did, and once I had the confidence to say, if this somehow horrific tragedy happened, that I'd be okay. And once I started to realize that there were less and less things that I really needed, the more confident I became. I realized that even though I always thought that I was a bad person, that I never actually wanted to hurt anyone, ever. There were so many times in my life where my anxiousness and my negative thoughts were based on me worrying that I was hurting others, but I never wanted that. And that's when I started to embrace kindness, where I finally saw myself in a positive light, when I finally focused on my good qualities and not my bad, where I realized that instead of wondering what I would be like if I wasn't bullied, what if I just was the person that I should be and that the person that I want to be? Completely and totally, unapologetically, me. And when I finally released that horrible feeling in my stomach that I thought was anxiety, but I realized it was guilt. It was guilt for being me. And when I realized it, it's when I said, no, not anymore. I refuse to continue to be a victim. It was around this time that I tried intermittent fasting. I lost 25 pounds. I started to order meals from HelloFresh and I learned how to cook. Started to listen to audibles and podcasts of some incredibly intelligent people. And when I finally had been everything that I wanted to be, I met Kim. The thing I wanted my whole life, a best friend. And when I met Kim, I finally was living in the moment. I wasn't concerned about who I was in the past or who I would be in the future. I was open to possibilities. I was open to everything. And that's why I sit here today, living the life that I always wanted, getting to wake up every morning and go to bed every night with the person that I love, my best friend. And all day, every day, I always think about the old me that's sitting up in the corner, shaking his head back and forth, in complete and total disbelief that I'm even here. And all it took was for me to start believing in me. And that's the biggest lesson. The lesson of all lessons is be you. Believe in who you are. Every single one of you out there has goodness in your heart. It's there, even if you're not always using it. See yourself for who you are and accept your flaws and just try to be better. And then have that same mentality for every other person on the planet. Choose to see the good in you and see the good in others. We're all just trying to do our best. And no one deserves to feel guilty for being who they are. See the positive. You and everyone else deserves that. Just be you. Thank you for anyone who took the time to listen to this. Have a fantastic day. And as always, be kind. You never know what someone else is going through.